Let's speak to our friend Paul Shamplina on a couple of property-based stories here. How you doing, Paul?
I'm okay, Ian. How are you?
Good as gold at this end. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? You and I, some years ago, started talking about property and renting and all that goes with it. The story is not only... It used to dominate the property pages, right? Now, this kind of stuff dominates the front pages. This sort of area is headline news now.
Well, yes, it is. I mean, look, it's the cost of living crisis, isn't it? I mean, the interest rate. I think everyone was so used to the interest rate being so low for so long, and it's risen so quickly over a short amount of time. Everyone's been in the shock factor, really. But I think, you know, it's and I think finally now they are saying that wages are now on par with being able to keep up to inflation, and trying to bring inflation down was obviously a real massive challenge. But I mean, I think there's real concerns with households, whether you're a homeowner or whether you're a renter. It's been tough. I mean, you know, if you look at Sky's news and the story that we're talking about, Ian, with regard to the mortgage rate, saying that it's the first time it's come down now on a 5-year deal, less than 6%. It's actually 5.99. So there's nothing really to celebrate.
For the first time in nearly 3 months, that's the...
Yeah, the first time in 3 months. I mean, look, there was some good news. Obviously, the interest rate didn't rise at the last Bank of England meeting, so that was something a little bit to celebrate. But it's tough. It's tough. I mean, obviously, with regard to, if you think about, they're saying that something like 2.4 million homeowners, their fixed term is going to end between July and the end of this year. So if you were used to paying, 2.5%, 3%, and you had that benefit for 2, 3 or 5 years or whatever it may be, and now all of a sudden you're going to be on 5.5%, 6%, 7%. It's a massive jump.
That's a huge jump, isn't it? And the smart money says, Paul, on that point, that the next few Bank of England announcements each month will probably have the same headline. They're going to remain as they are. There's not many speculators suggesting that they will come down eventually, but maybe not for 6, 7, 8 months or so.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I speak to people. I was at a big property event yesterday. I mean, the feeling is that interest rates most probably won't come down for at least another year anyway. It may, whether they creep up another 0.25% and possibly have another 0.5%, and then they stabilise and then come back down. But the days of the 2% are well and truly over. Let's be very clear about that. It's about managing your finances, and of course that leads into the fact of how households are struggling. Really, I mean that the two are interlinked, aren't they? Trying to pay your mortgage or trying to pay your rent, Ian, is the biggest payment someone has to come out with on a monthly basis. Is
it possible, do you think, I know this isn't strictly your area, Paul, but just talking in general conversation here, do you think it's possible that once we've now got this average 5-year fixed rate mortgage dropping below 6% for the first time in 3 months, once those headlines are out there, other banks hear that, they say, oh, we'll come with a 5.8%, and then the game starts again, the competition starts again. As you say, it's never going to go lunatic. But, of course, you have two figures you're working here with. There's the Bank of England rate, and then it's what the banks do in response to that. Yeah. And this is what the banks do in response. There might be some healthy competition kicks in. Yeah,
I think they will follow suit. I mean, I heard a mortgage broker speak last week, actually, and he said that there is dull news and headline-grabbing news when it comes to interest rates, but he said actually there is actually some quite good rates out there if you really, really hunt around. I mean, the only advice I would give to people that are looking to change or looking to purchase first time, I mean, if you look at the housing market, Savills have said the market's come down in the last 12 months, 5%, possibly another 5%. So, that could be better news for people trying to get on the ladder. But I think the feeling is now people are, if you're a cash buyer, then that's great to a certain, but they're much more bullish. Stuff is now harder to sell. I speak to agents all the time. But I mean, that there is an issue, which I think that the next story we're going to talk about, Ian, is going to be mortgage arrears and rent arrears.
Yeah, tell us about renters, because this is, almost the the bigger story around property is that of the rental sector, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, which did a survey to 4,000 households, which included renters and homeowners, and 46% of the people in that poll, so that's almost half, have said that they are struggling with payments. I mean, look, I run a business called Landlord Action, and we are busier than ever when it comes to seeing the rise in rent arrears, but also landlords leaving the sector. But 27% of tenants, Ian, have been dipping into their savings to pay the rents because, of course, rents have absolutely shot up.
Yeah.
And the main reason of rents shooting up was obviously from September last year when, of course, interest rates were rising, and of course landlords were feeling those rises, and they were forced to put the rents up. So,
yep.
And that's impacted tenants
and lack of properties out there, of course, as well.
And there's a lack of properties. There's a lack of stock out there. You speak
yep.
to any agent. I did a talk yesterday to 100 odd landlords, and there's land. I asked some of the landlords have been selling some of their properties for a whole mixture of reasons. We talk about that quite often.
Yep.
And which means that, you might have decent tenants that have been living in a property for some time, and they're being asked to leave a property because the landlord wants to sell the property,
sure.
not with the tenant in there. And of course, that tenant, who might have been paying a certain rent, all of a sudden has to go to another property, most probably not in the local area, because they can't find anything of the same amount of they're paying.
And that is, and just a final point on this, Paul, we're getting bidding wars now on properties. Multiple people who are bidding to rent a place.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, on average, there's 20 tenant applicants looking for one property on average. And as I said, I spoke to a letting agent a couple of weeks ago, and they had, I think it was 85 tenants looking for one property. And then, of course, they do open house viewings.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have to qualify. And then there's the question about what type of information the landlord or the letting agent wants on that tenant.
Yep.
And then, of course, tenants are desperate and they end up having a bidding war, and they're paying 6 or 12 months in advance. It's really, really tough for tenants. I would say, in all the years that I've been in this industry, and I've been in this industry a long time, over 30 years, Ian, it's most probably the toughest that I've seen tenants have it.
Indeed. Paul, listen, always great to get your view, your wisdom and expertise on this.